Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the
To the
MagneZONE.
MagneZOne.
And
That's what
also,
happened.
like, blowing, like, into a bottle. Like, that's what that sounded like. But so with me as usual is Clutch, Sam, and
Hey, what's up, guys?
Omega. And
Hey,
I'm
what's up?
Cossack11. I don't know if I introduced myself. I was just so thrown by the that I was hearing. I don't know what that was from. Um, So we had some technical issues. We had many technical issues with episode 5. That was an experience and a half, let me tell you, but hopefully we got everything back on track. I've looked at the issues and have resolved them. So, we should be fine barring further technical issues that I cannot foresee. Um so our topics today, we're finally getting around to our next topic in the team archetype series, which is hyper offense, and we'll start with that. So hyper offense. I've already kind of heard Clutch and Sam's opinions on this, but I'll throw it. So I'll throw it to Omega because we haven't heard him in a while.
What is that sound?
What is that sound actually? Before we go any further, Clutch.
I don't know what it is.
Anything you want to tell us about?
I have nothing,
All right. Well,
Clutch owns a foghorn.
yeah.
Anyways,
So
obviously.
Omega hyper offense, take us away.
Hyper offense is definitely a very viable team comp. The only thing with hyper offense is you have to have your answers. Hyper offense is great because it gives you very, very few switching options. Hyper offense generally is very fast speed, very heavy hitting, generally physical, although there are special hyper offense as well. The biggest flawed hyper offense, though, is as soon as you lose, because hyper offense generally is just put on coverage moves. The reason I beat Meta, who is the definitive hyper offensive member of our league, is I just click T wave and recover. And hyper offense, if you can outstall it, it can't do anything because all it brings is generally offense. There's generally not a lot of status on there, not a lot of hazard removal, and not a lot of speed control. So hyper offense is definitely very viable because Meta had a great season this season so far. Although hyper offense can sweep through many teams, if you can cover it, it's generally pretty easy to get through once the heavy hitter is down.
Yeah, I think the biggest analogy I have for running hyper offense is you're very much walking a tightrope. Because one false move and the whole thing comes crashing down like a house of cards. It's
Yeah.
you have to be very much on point. Your decision making has to be on point, and if you're missing just one piece of coverage, if you didn't plan for like a certain mon to come and didn't have any coverage for it, you're suddenly in a lot of trouble, especially if that mon's got some bulk. Because the whole point of hyper offense is to hit hard, hit fast, and end the battle quickly. You will not do well in the drawn out attrition.
I think if you get a hyper offense team past 20 turns, they're probably not going to win that game.
Probably not. They're probably too worn out, and they're liable to get
And
swept.
they're probably taking too much damage from something, and
Rocks,
something in the back.
spikes, toxic.
yeah, and hyper offense is always in danger, especially playing balanced teams. That if the balanced team can survive long enough, if they can keep their core intact, once again, like Clutch said, for about 20 turns, if a balanced team has a sweeper in the back that gets a leg up on your hyper offense, that could just be game right there.
Yeah.
They're very vulnerable to being kind of counter swept, more or less.
That is now that being said, if you do get if you have hyper offense, the advantages you have going for you are the shock and awe of your offense.
Shock and awe.
Basically, no, that's actually the entire concept of it. Because I think a lot of the biggest problems
No, I
in
agree,
dealing
I
with
agree.
hyper offense is it really you are going to start with that momentum, and if you can hang on to that momentum, your opponent is gonna be
Yeah, and above all else, it's very, very hard to switch in safely on a hyper offensive team.
right. Exactly.
you're choosing sacks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're choosing what's going to die here because you're switching it into a very heavy hitting wall breaker, or you're maybe switching into a setup sweeper that's already set up at least once. And yeah, exactly. So So you can really control the mental game as well as the actual game itself. And if you can basically it's all about maintaining your momentum. If you lose your momentum, if your offense grinds to a halt, like if you can't break something right away, you're in trouble because they're going to use that opportunity to shift the momentum on you. They're going to use it as an opportunity to start wearing you down, setting hazards. They're going to use it to set statuses on you. Paralyze is very detrimental to you, even more so than other teams. Like if I get paralyzed on Stall isn't going to be that upset about paralysis. I mean, it's not going to like it. Nobody.
I think I brought Toxic against you because there'd be no point in paralyzing Chansey or Cliff Fable.
Right, because it's slower than everything
ever. Latios. Yeah,
it's slower than everything anyway. There's no point.
Like, for like a hyper offensive team, paralysis, because they rely on speed control. If they're checked on speed, they just get sacked because most of them are very frail or have very common weaknesses.
Trick Room is a great way to speed control. Great Scarfers, Tailwind.
Will-O-Wisp.
Wisp is a great. But lots of Toxic Spikes are really handy just to wear them down, force them to take more chip damage than they really want to.
Yeah.
Sticky Webs is really good against a lot of
Webs are great
hyper
speed
offense
control
teams.
And I think that we should clarify as well. I mentioned this in the last the Lost podcast.
The Lost episode.
In the Lost episode. But I think that hyper offense teams get a rep for kind of being without nuance because, if you get in the early ladder and stuff, you see people, the way they're trying to play is they brought like 6 setup sweepers that they like, and they just go in, they set up once, and they try sweeping. And some people, like, that's their only experience with, and I say this like with finger quotes, hyper offense. Really what hyper offense should be ideally, a well-played hyper offense team has a whole bunch of threats across the board. It's not going to all be setup sweepers. It could be, a mix of wall breakers, setup sweepers. They might even have 1 or 2 things in the back that can defog or pivot.
Right. Actually, I know that sometimes more frequently than not, well, maybe not more frequently enough that you can definitely expect to see it at least a couple times, is seeing a Skarmory. As a defogger.
Skarmory set defog, Skarmory set spikes.
It's a sore subject around this area over here.
Oh no.
Hey.
We gotta be careful. Embrace the struggle, Mori.
Yeah.
2 things come up every week.
Struggle Mori and Flame Orb Facade.
Exactly.
There, I said it.
I think if you're looking at like team archetypes, like one of the more common things I've seen is a Chansey offense. And like if you look at like mid-low ladder, it's just like 5 setup sweepers and a Chansey. Essentially. Yeah. So like Chansey catches the status, catches this walls that
Heal bells,
to break it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Getting that paralysis off of things with Heal Bell is very useful.
I think the problem
is that
with
buzzing sound someone's
that,
phone?
Could be.
It's coming from Clutch because I see his Discord thing buzz each time it happens.
I can't find my. I can't find my.
Yep. See, it's coming from him.
Garbage mic.
Whoop! There it is.
This week's podcast featuring Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yeah.
Brought to you by Mr. Conductor.
Yeah. So, but I think
this is like when you're talking about hyper offense, its consistency is hard to find.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
and I think
you can have a lot of great weeks in a row because their offense because their defense just doesn't match up well. But if you get someone who doesn't match up well, it's an auto loss because you can't break through.
Right. Like if you let's say your team doesn't really have fairy type on it on hyper offense, and that's a lot of times that's the case because there's not a whole bunch of like really offensive fairy types out there that are, especially when you're laddering. Now when you're talking draft league, it's a little bit different because you got Grand Bull is a pretty decent offensive fairy. Rabombi is a pretty good offensive fairy.
Yeah.
But when you're like So when you're talking like, and then of course the Tapus, Tapu Koko being the offensive fairy. But if you're not running Tapu Koko, like
Lele, I guess,
Yeah.
would be.
Well, yeah, I guess
Well, it's banned in
But
our league, so it doesn't really matter.
And
it's banned in most leagues.
it's banned in most draft
For a
leagues
very
because,
good reason.
Yeah.
'Cause if it's not banned, it'll take you aside and curb stomp you.
Yeah, I faced when I did that tournament at Anime Midwest, there was a lot of Tapu Lele. It was very aggravating. Especially because I had Breloom and I could not mock punch because the terrain.
Oh, jeez.
And I was just very, very on tilt with the whole deal.
It's so sad.
Spore became my best friend then. And that is when I decided that offense was not for me, and I shall furthermore always enjoy the bulk. That was when my conversion was complete.
The birth of the supervillain.
No,
Anyway.
But yeah, it's one of those things where let's say your team doesn't have a lot of like fairy types. Mega Sableye is going to destroy your offense. Mega Sableye is incredibly hard to break if you don't have a fairy type.
Just start with the kneecaps.
I mean,
so I think the other thing to talk about with hyper offense as well is if you were building a team, what you would be looking for in the structure of everything is offensive synergy and typing synergy.
Very much.
Because you're looking for things that break the same things. Because ultimately, I think the way that hyper offense wins is that they overwhelm their single counter. And I think this is a big team building problem for a lot of people. Is they're like, oh, I have this catch-all wall. You know, I have Porygon 2 in the background, or I have Chansey in the background, or Mega Venusaur. And if they have, they have one thing in the background, and if you're relying on that one Pokemon to be your answer for 2 or 3 of your opponent's Pokemon on their bring list that week, it could be that, by the time it's handled 2 of them, it can't handle the third. Right. And that's what hyper offense.
Oh, for sure. Also, especially with things like Porygon 2 and Mega Venusaur, recovery is very big on them. Because Porygon 2, for going against hyper offense like the Kieran Black, Tapu Koko, Meta, Charger Bugs, I can only bring it in on very, very few mons. It can only come in as a revenge killer, or it can only come in if I could predict the switch correctly and trace the ability to take the hit.
Chansey can't come in on anything that hits hard physically that has a fighting type move. Now, Chansey can come in on basically as long as there's no physical fighting move in play. Chansey comes in on pretty much everything. But I mentioned this before. Chansey gets worn down. You cannot rely on just Chansey to do all your walling for you.
You cannot rely on just Monica.
Right. And that I think therein is the biggest stall is, the other, we get the immovable object faces the unstoppable force. And I think in a lot of those situations, the immovable object usually wins because it's got enough walls that check enough things that you can't break through it quick enough.
And it comes down to RNG because, going back to the hyper offensive, I had to rely on a quarter chance to paralyze to actually win the match. A couple times. Like my week 1 against Nadia, only won because paralysis. But going into Meta, it was just sit there and recover stall until he's paralyzed. Now I can hit him. So the whole thing is, I would say the immovable wall does win because eventually the odds are in your favor. But
it does come down to because one
crit or the argument on both sides. It's either a crit or it's either a paralyze or a miss or something along those lines.
And I think really honestly the true biggest weakness though is bulky offense. Bulky offense deals with hyper offense very well because it's got walls that can both tank and hit back hard usually. And on top of that, it's usually got a couple counter sweepers in the back pocket that if the hyper offense gets stalled long enough, the counter sweep is inevitable.
I think bulky offense is it's kind of the more modern hyper offense in a lot of ways in that it tries to, it's not quite as all in, but it's still in a similar fashion really relies on typing synergies to pull off its switches.
Yeah.
You want a couple things that can cover for each other's weaknesses really well, that can switch between each other.
Yeah.
And
you want,
I think
you want a very solid core for that. And bulky offense cores, you kind of have to be a little picky with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a topic, of course, for another time. Right?
Yes, we will be
So-
going over bulky offense in detail.
I think we talked about this last time, and maybe we can take like a couple minutes to mention this. But like, what are the kind of quintessential Pokemon of hyper offense?
Well, I think we mentioned Tapu Koko. Tapu Koko is very good on any offensive team, but I would even
Then
say,
Kyurem Black.
yeah, those two are very good on hyper offense. They're very strong. Like Kyurem is a great breaker, and they have good typing synergies.
I'd put Mega Manectric on there too. It's
Yeah.
generally it is only offensive because it's so crazy frail. Intimidate helps that a lot with like EQ takes it better,
Yeah.
but it still doesn't take it at all.
Well, and then I
mhm.
think another example of a mon that's used almost not quite, but almost exclusively for hyper offense is Kartana.
Mega Houndoom? Oh yeah, definitely Kartana. Because Kartana is only offensive. I mean, what you can run a bulky set in AV maybe?
Well,
Take the HP flyer remotely better.
you can't run an AV set very well with Kartana.
No, because it's designed.
It just
to
doesn't. It
be
doesn't have the
literally a
stats.
paper cannon.
Yeah, it doesn't have the stats to. But that's not. But you can still use it on a balanced team as like your cleanup sweeper and something like that. But it is generally used on hyper offense more than any other archetype.
I think a lot of hyper offense mons fit in balance, or fit. So even some will fit in like bulky offense, for instance. One of the mons that comes to mind for me, by virtue of its typing, by virtue of its abilities as well, is Gyarados.
Yes, Gyarados is very much a hyper offense mon. Both its Mega Evolution and its regular
the fact that
base form.
Yeah, because in hyper offense, there's an aspect in which you are relying on switching and type synergies to make everything work. So, I think what you see, with Mega Gyarados and with Gyarados in general, is that you really appreciate the Intimidate on the switch in, because it lessens the amount of damage you're going to take.
In return, yes, and sometimes can even also force the switch.
Yeah, and also there's a lot of, a bulky Dragon Dance set with Gyarados can really cause trouble for a lot of teams just because of how wide the coverage is between those two stabs.
For sure. Other things that are hyper offensive. Tyrantrum and Pardos, run those.
Yeah.
Throw a band or scarf on those.
Mega Sceptile even. I was gonna say Conkeldurr, just my defensive sets with Conkeldurr.
Yeah, Conkeldurr can work on like
there's plenty of good hyper offensive mons.
Another good one is Darmanitan. Darmanitan's a great hyper offense mon.
Yeah.
Wallbreaker.exe.
It should also be noted that you can actually, depending on what you're doing, you can actually you can have like a weather themed hyper offense team. Like if you have T-Tar and some good Sand Rush users, you can set up a really good sand hyper offense. That's very
one of my favorite teams I've run. I did it at VGC for a while, but I did it when it was anything goes. So of course Mega Ray and Giratina, things that are in there. I would just have some Sandstream users. I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been T-Tar, but it had Stoutland, just Choice Banded Play Rough. And I could just sweep with that thing. It was just so much fun to have, because everyone's like, because they all have Mega Ray on their team, and it just cannot take that hit.
Nope.
But it's fun. I love hyper offense is great. Sand's probably the best one for it, because I'd say Hail's probably the worst. I'd probably say Sand's the best.
Hail teams really don't. Hail teams aren't. I'm gonna say that Hail teams are like barely on the edge of viable in general for most formats.
For sure. Also, they're very easy to counter team.
Well, because the thing with Hail teams is, and this is the reason why Sand teams do so well. There's a lot of non-ground rock and steel types that still benefit from Sand. This is why Rain is also good, because there's a lot of non-water types. There's a lot of grass types that benefit from Rain.
Yeah, or even just a lot of generally fire weak Pokemon. Like,
right.
Jirachi loves being in Jirachi loves being in Rain, for instance. Because also he gets to fire off base 110, 100% accurate, 60% paralyzing thunders. Like that's pretty good.
Yep. And then you got Tornadus.
Tornadus appreciates it. Anything that gets Hurricane really appreciates it.
So Flyers appreciate Rain. Electric types appreciate Rain for those 100% accuracy thunders that just destroy things.
Oh, absolutely. And So I mean, rain. Other things benefit from rain. Other things benefit from. I think you can run a hyper offensive rain team potentially. You can certainly run hyper offense with sandstorm.
Well,
Excadrill in the
yeah.
sand is fantastic.
Well, and then like you've also got the Lichen Rock also works pretty well in sand as well, and
just because it gets the special defense boost, or
well, it gets a boost, and it's also not taking damage from, or not rain. Wow, I'm talking about
sand. You said sand.
Okay,
I was just
sand. Wow. Okay, but Lichen Rock likes sand, but that's because pretty much anything that's like doesn't get damaged by sand also likes sand.
Yeah, the chip is always nice. I think people underestimate the chip over a course of a game, because I mean, you're going to play a game. It's going to be 20 turns. 20 turns of something doing 6.25% to your opponent. Like, even let's assume it's a lot of damage.
The three best, like the three sand setters are durable enough to set multiple times usually. So like Tyranitar can set multiple times usually. Hippowdon can definitely set multiple times. Now granted, you're probably not using Hippowdon on a hyper offense team. But you can definitely you can it's still and I would even say Gigalith could be used on a hyper offense team, because I think like we were talking about like Chansey offense, where it's all hyper offense and then you have Chansey as like a pivot.
I mean, heck, if you want to come in with Gigalith and just explode immediately to set up for your
suicide leads are also important in hyper offense. Suicide leads are oftentimes used to set up revenge kills early game.
Set up revenge kills, keep rocks off the field for them, get your hazards up, all sorts of stuff. And it's an important part of things. It's important to try and kind of hide your suicide lead a little bit. People run like what do people run these days? I mean, suicide lead, Lichen Rock is pretty good. Azelf is kind of a
staple. Azelf is probably what most people think of when they think suicide lead nowadays.
Yeah. And it's had that reputation as long as it's existed.
Yeah, it's because of like its combination of its speed tier, its move pool, and the general like stat distribution it's got going for it.
Yeah. It certainly didn't like that explosions got nerfed back in Gen 5.
No, it did not.
So anyways, do you have any closing thoughts on hyper offense to kind of round things out, or are there more things we want to say?
I think we covered most of it.
There's not much. It's probably the easiest one to cover, because it's with hyper defense. There's a lot of nuance and a lot. I mean, of course, there's nuance in hyper offensive too, but it is the most. It's the easiest one to talk about and to put down to a few words.
Well, it's an easy concept to understand, because it's one of those things where I feel like it's simple to learn the basics of it, but difficult to actually master that archetype.
Oh, for sure. It's not really a beginner friendly type in terms of winning a whole lot against experienced players.
Right, because experienced players know how to shut down hyper offense,
especially in draft league where you're preparing for
right.
I think the criticism of hyper offense and ladder sometimes is just that like people are like, oh, it's low skill. Oh, like. Because you're not always running a team that's prepped for every.
Oh, for sure. It's not necessarily low skill, because you can bring very high skill hyper offensive teams. I think Matt's done a good job this season of actually bringing some good prep for his hyper offensive team. He's had some weeks where it's been all offensive and just easy to stop. He's had a couple of weeks where it's been very well prepped. I mean, it's not necessarily the easy thing to prep for, but I think definitely on the ladder, people just upset because like, oh well, I could do that too, but I want to do a more nuanced, more lower tier team, or more whatever.
Well, the thing with hyper offense,
that's not a really good criticism of it.
The thing with hyper offense and ladder is if you get smoked by a good hyper offense team, they usually make it look easy.
That's true.
Like, it looks really easy when you're the one getting swept.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, and this also came up in the Lost episode, but when it comes to hyper offense, just in general, kind of my observation is that with a poorly played hyper offense team, they might get close to breaking you, but if you play your cards right, you can typically come away with a 2-0 or a 3-0.
Yeah.
Oh, easily.
Yeah, because the thing is, if you're just trading kills with them and you're the one who has the upper hand in terms of revenge killing and all that, you get to, because the thing is that what a hyper offense team will let you do is they will let you choose what you're sacking. And you'll probably have to sack a few things to win. But if you go in with the game plan and know what you're doing, you can probably take them all out.
Especially in draft league, too.
I think
you prep 6 months for it, and as soon as the thing comes, as soon as the match starts and see team preview, you can determine, okay, this Pokemon is my least viable option. If Kieran Black or if something comes in, if Conk is in, I can't switch into it, or anything's in, I will sack this one because it does the least against the team.
Right.
So I think Hyper Offense is definitely easier to take on in draft league than in just laddering.
Yeah, and it's a decision I've made before facing hyper offense as a bulky player. Like, you have your walls and you have your selection of walls, and you look at the enemy team and you're like, okay, this wall isn't going to do very good. So if I have to sack something for a revenge kill, that's what I'm using. And they do give you that option.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're asking the questions and forcing you to answer them. So by answering them, you kind of have an upper hand in some senses.
It's a weird balance of who has the initiative and momentum, because basically how it works with hyper offense is a lot of times the hyper offense is they definitely have the initiative, but every time they're using that initiative, they're basically saying, here's the initiative, do you want to take it? Like, what do you choose to use against this initiative? And depending on how you like you're talking with questions and answers, depending on how you answer the question, you can take the initiative back.
Mm-hmm. It's all about
that's what it is.
It's all about thinking ahead.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of hyper offense teams are very straight ahead, go right in front of you, go. But the player on the other side has a chance to think ahead and say, hey, maybe I can just save this so I can beat this later. Well, in their thoughts, they're just opening themselves up to more revenge kills.
Mm-hmm. Well, and in draft league, because you have that virtue of knowing what you're prepping for and having a lot of prep time, like certain things, like if I was prepping for some hyper offense teams, one of the first things I would be checking for with my draft league team is I would be checking for, do they have a lot of priority or not? Do they have a lot of priority move users? Yeah. Because if they don't, then one of my biggest the second thing I'm looking at is how many of them are grounded, because I have Shuckle on my team and I have Sharpedo. So then my strategy then, if they don't have a lot of priority and if they do have a lot of grounded Pokemon, my strategy becomes get that Shuckle out there, get the webs up, and if I can, get the rocks up as well. After that, Shuckle's done his job. I'll probably bring him back, but I'll probably sack him later for a revenge kill.
Also, one thing with hyper offensive teams is when you're playing like a bulky offensive or bulky defensive team, it's kind of hard to tell what your win cons are, what you need to save. When you're playing hyper offensive, it's a much more black and white than any other match. You can look at hyper offensive and see, this is my win con, these are my death fodder. Whereas in like a defensive team, or even one like mine where it's mixed offense and defense with some great walls and some great Marv offensive, it's definitely a lot harder to prep for. Even when during the match, it's like, okay, well, there's different threats here and there. Whereas if you look at the team against hyper offense, you can see, okay, mostly physical, keep my wall around, or okay, mostly special, keep my AV around. Whatever it is, it's a lot easier to tell what you need.
Yeah, it is definitely. So I think that it just about covers hyper offense. We'll move on to our next topic, which is the week 3 of divisional rematches. And boy, what a week it was.
Oh, absolutely.
It was a good week, I think. I only watched a couple matches, but from what I know, it was a good week.
I watched a couple matches, but
I think Clutch and I are up to date. Because Clutch, you watched the 3 yesterday. Did you catch Galesburg versus Chicago today?
I have not. I have not.
Okay.
It's the first time I've been home today.
Oh, fair enough. Okay. Well, I think I've watched all of the games to this point.
Okay.
So
why don't you take the lead on this then?
All right. Well, I think we have a grand total of 5 games played right now.
Yes,
I believe so.
So we do not have the full complement of games for week 3 played.
We're still waiting on both of the Hoenn games.
I'm playing. After this topic, I'm going to leave and battle rush just right after this topic is finished. So I will not. I'll not keep. Okay, if I finish before the thing is I'll come in and possibly announce the results. If not, I will catch you guys on the next podcast for recap.
Okay. Well, anyways, I mean, do we want to start out real quick? Like, let's say, Emerson, in 30 seconds, can you say what you think the big factors are for you playing Rochester today?
I can do that. Start the clock.
All right, it started.
Okay, so I'm predicting him to bring Mew, Manectrix, Lazzle, Might Mian, Xiao, Sneasel, and Kecleon. The big issue for me now is both my sweepers for last time, Salamence and Halucha, are gone. I can't really get rid of Haskell without Armaldo, but it's not going to be good for me to bring my beloved Harry. So what I need to do in this match is take down his offensive threats quickly, which Mew's be the biggest wild card, so I need that out of the way. I've got my Vacuum Wave Lucario to take down Sneasel, and I've got a lot of AV because he's got a lot of special walls. The biggest threat to me is Gudra, but what I need to do in this one is get rid of the threats early on, and then P2 and Venusaur can just outstall the rest.
Nice.
Very
What
good.
kind of Gudra
wow,
do you see coming?
You got it 30 seconds exactly, by the way.
Oh, that's perfect.
What kind of Gudra are you seeing coming?
I'm expecting special Gudra because I'm not bringing Victini this time around because I know that was one thing. He was probably kicking himself because I brought Fire Emzy Victini and just tore through Avalugg last time. I'm bringing a weird team. I'm bringing Lucario, Krook, P2, Venusaur, Thundurus, and then Miss Magius. I'm expecting special Gudra if it comes at all. I don't really see it coming because I've brought Primarina a lot these last few weeks, and Primarina has a good time with his team. And because I know like what they did Naughty Week 1, I hyped up Venusaur so much and just didn't bring it at all. So that's kind of what I'm hoping he predicts so much Primarina and doesn't bring the Gudra. Because the Gudra really is hard on my team.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have much for it. I do have a couple Dazzling Gleam users and just some big heavy hitters for it. I spend on P2 and
Dazzling Gleam against the Gudra is doing 0.
I know, but
Yeah.
I mean, I've got to. If worst comes to worst, I can Toxic stall it. But I'm bringing a couple weird sets like Toxic on Lucario and a few other things for surprising moves. But it's going to be a good match, I hope. But definitely is one thing for if Gudra comes. I don't see physical coming. I think it'll be special.
All right. That is interesting.
Because only thing for physical is physical. The best move for physical is Outrage. And if I brought the Primarina, he would be
if you're not bringing Primarina,
I'm not
then
for sure.
that
That's why I
definitely-
don't think it'll come. Or if it does come,
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be physical. With physical, would pretty much
I mean,
just
it gets-
Outrage.
yeah, it gets physical coverage tonight.
Yeah.
It gets physical grass
Does,
coverage,
but
I think.
not physical dragon coverage really, other than Outrage. That's why I think if it comes,
But it
it'll
does
be
get
special.
physical grass
And I'm
coverage, so
bringing
it could
two
be.
AV users and a lot of special defensive.
Mhm.
Yeah, it'll certainly be interesting to see how those these predictions you've laid down
For sure, because if
to
Gudra does
fruition.
come and it's physical or anything like that, I'm just going to be screwed over by the big globby man.
I do like Gudra. Gudra, as a bulk player, I can confirm Gudra is fantastic.
Cost like
All right.
approval. Gudra.
Do you want to hand the reins over to Clutch to talk about
Yeah.
what he sees coming with Nadia?
Let's do it.
And you're playing tonight, right, Clutch?
Yeah, we are scheduled for tonight,
Oh, sweet.
which is Sunday.
Yeah, on the off chance that it gets I mean, can you? Because I know what you're bringing, and I want you to talk about one thing. There's one.
Okay, so
are we allowed to talk
I'm
about
gonna
it?
getting the elephant
All
out of the way.
spoilers are legal.
I'm bringing Belly Drum Magmortar.
Yes.
I'm bringing Belly Drum, Flame Charge, Mach Punch, and Return. If I get 2 flame
I've
charges
waited my
up,
whole life for this.
it's actually game. If I get 2 flame charges up,
That's
the whole game
profoundly
plan is to get it
disturbing.
in on like Bronzong. Is to get it on something like Bronzong,
Right.
bait in the Blissey as a special attacker, Belly Drum, get a flame charge off, and try to sweep.
Crack open
If
that
it's
Liberty
not
Bell.
Scarf Garchomp, if it's not Scarf Garchomp, I sweep with one flame charge. But it is Scarf Garchomp, I sweep with 2. I'm bringing. I was debating to bring Azu, but I'm not gonna end up bringing Azu.
Only one belly drummer at a time, son.
He could
I
feel.
thought
We're
about
need some limits in here. Too many belly drums.
I'm bringing Choice Terrakion because I'm trying to abuse Blissey as much as I can
Yeah.
because my team does have a lot of good special threats and Pidgeot. So I'm bringing Pidgeot plus Choice Band Terrakion. So I U-turn as Blissey comes out and Terrakion makes something die. I click close combat on something and something drops. There are no
Yeah.
switch-ins at all. Something's gonna die.
Yeah, it's pretty much how it was with my Sharpedo against Sam the other week. With the exception of the Lycanroc, and even then he had to make sure it was within range for the Accelerock, but
Yeah.
there were no switch-ins for that Sharpedo.
I see
mean, once
Garchomp
everything's
coming.
boring, yeah. Go ahead.
I see like Garchomp coming. I see Mega Gardevoir coming. Mega Gardevoir is a massive threat. I do have Empoleon,
Yeah.
which is a really interesting set. It's like protect, Stealth
Yeah.
Rocks, 2 attacks.
Yeah, that'll be
Just so I can
interesting to
try
see. Because that one will come down to whether or not she has Focus Blast on that Mega Gardevoir.
Or it could be Thunderbolt as well.
Oh
So,
yeah,
like,
you're right.
there's-
Thunderbolt would be even worse because it's quad.
Actually, not necessarily. I mean, not
Well-
necessarily because like, but the whole thing at Gardevoir is I can revenge it consistently with Terrakion because
Right.
Terrakion does the outright Okos after any
Yeah.
damage on it. So and I can live a Focus Blast or in a Thunderbolt with my spread pretty easily.
You go.
So I can get damage on it. I can get damage off on it, get rocks up, and then get Terrakion in, let it die, and kill it,
Yeah.
and make something die.
Yep, that's certainly, and it's like I think I briefly said this earlier, but that's what it is. A lot of what it's kind of about in battles is you're really what it comes down to is you want to take every opportunity you can to get Mons out of the game, and so it looks like that's what you're doing. You're setting it up so that she has no choice but to take one of her own Mons out of the game.
I'm trying to abuse the wall core, the potential wall core.
That
like,
definitely is what you probably like. That I mean, that's
because I'm trying to bait and lure things like Bronzong and
For
whatnot.
Sure. Your team has some great revenge killers.
Right. Well,
Terrakion's one of the best.
And you're trying to, obviously you're trying to bait the Blissey out so you can set up on it because frankly Blissey is super easy to set up on.
It's a Blissey. Like, what's it gonna do?
Seismic toss.
Oh no!
Oh no! The gas. Seismic toss. My greatest weakness.
And body activates and it just gets kicked in the face.
Yeah, basically.
It gets set up. It's just fodder. And Bronzong.
Oh, I know.
It can check things, but like.
What about heat-proof Bronzong?
I mean, I don't care. I'll get a couple. I mean, I guess they can't do anything else with Terrakion then, because it's still like max HP. Bronzong takes like 75% from close combat from Terrakion.
Okay, you're good.
Yeah.
I wonder if a +6 flame charge would actually kill heat-proof Bronzong.
It's gonna be, and again, it's gonna be interesting to see how your prediction plays out.
Yeah, I mean,
because at the end of the day, with when you're talking Mons, when you're talking battles and Pokemon, no plan survives first contact. Your plans.
I mean, I've had a lot of success with it recently,
except for Todd's Armory. That worked like a charm.
I mean,
I can't believe my beautiful nickname on my Empoleon. You didn't say anything about that.
Yeah.
What was it? Oh wait.
It was taunt, please.
Oh, okay. I didn't recall that. No.
Oh my gosh!
I
didn't see that.
Oh
no, yeah. I did see that. That was really funny.
I remember the name. I just didn't get it at the time because I was just like so out of it.
It was a Shuka Empoleon. So I'm like, please go ahead.
So now that we've got, now that we've covered the 2 upcoming battles that haven't been played yet this week, or 2 of them, because there's 3 that haven't been played yet. 2 of the upcoming. Let's talk a little bit about the battles that have actually happened, and also some more playoff slots have been clinched.
Yeah. So do we want to go? Do we want to go down the list of the 5? Like,
let's do that.
Let's do like Sun Vision and Moon Division and talk about who's in and who's got the chances left.
Let's talk about Kanto then, because those were actually the first 2 games to come in. So starting off, we've got Detroit versus Akron. That was the game that I think Cossack and I were talking about this before the podcast. It's like it was a back and forth for a while. I think they were both at 3 versus 3 at like turn 20, and then it was just 7 turns of.
No, that was Detroit versus Oregon that I was thinking that you're thinking.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, because that was. I mean, it was a similar battle with Akron too, though.
Yeah,
Akron. Well, and I think that's how a lot of the battles with Detroit have played out. Is it's very much jockeying for position, and like it's a lot of turns of like switching out, switching in, switching out, switching in, switching out, and then like once someone feels they've got they feel like they've got the point where they need to go for the throat, they do, and then it just turns into a KO fest in like the last few turns.
What's interesting is how do you say that thing's name? Aromatisse or whatever it is?
Aromatisse.
it's come in clutch for Excessive 2 games in a row against Akron now. I mean, it put in work.
So who won that one, Akron or Detroit?
Detroit
Detroit.
pulled it out. Yeah, Adam wasn't too happy with the outcome. I think he felt like
No, he was very upset about that.
well, because he had Detroit in a good position, and I think that like was the point at which he kind of got flipped there? Was it when he switched in the Galvantula and let it die, or
It might have been.
because that was what I was thinking? Is that it seemed like to me that he was not content with going for the wish and attack once battle between Aromatisse and Lickilicky, and I think he switched early to Galvantula when Excessive.
I think he just got impatient.
Yeah, exactly. And because the thing is that Excessive, he knew that he didn't have to go for another wish immediately.
Right.
And so he just went for a second attack, and he straight OHKO'd that Galvantula on the way in. And at that point, like that thing was basically Adam's last chance at, I think KO.
It was last offensive pressure.
Yeah, it was. Did he still have Mega Metacham at that point? But like it wasn't.
He might have, but it might not have been able to do anything.
I think it was revenged by other things. Like the game was over once that Galvantula was out, and I think he switched.
That's what usually happens in a tight battle like that. All it takes is like I said, one false move.
Yeah,
sometimes that's all it takes.
That's a tough one as well because you can see why he'd kick himself for it. It's not fun to switch something in when you think you got it safe, when you think you know what the other person's doing, and just to get,
one shotted. Yeah,
get whacked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because either Excessive made a good read there, or Excessive was just like, I don't need to wish yet. I'm gonna attack again. Like,
yeah. Well, and it could have also been that Excessive was also tired of the battle and said, you know what, I'm gonna go for the second attack and hope I can tank one more hit.
Oh, and he could.
I wish
he was well in it.
And I'm sure he could. But like sometimes that's what happens because I've been in like wish attack battles many times, and that's
you probably initiate those battles, don't you?
Yes, I usually do. I will admit I am usually the initiator of said battles.
I've been in that battle, even though I chose to be in that battle.
And that's usually what happens in those battles. It's kind of a who blinks first sort of thing. And I love those types of battles
because the wrong prediction can cost the match, even if you're ahead.
Right. And it's one of those things where if you do it right, if you get someone into a who blinks first battle like that, I'm very patient. I'm very content and just letting that battle drag on as long as it needs to
until the heat death of the universe.
Well, you're talking to someone who played a 92 turn battle, and it was literally just it was literally just between Toxapex and Ferrothorn and Mega Sableye. That was the battle, and that took like 70 turns of the battle. Was just that. And I was content to sit there and just trade shots with this Mega Sableye while recovering and protecting.
An entire hour.
It did not play an entire hour. It only lasted 45 minutes because the Mega Sableye ran out of stuff to do.
So one thing I want to bring up as well. Let's see. No, the one thing I want to bring up as well is there anything more to say about this game?
I think that about covers it. Really, it came down to that: who blinks first.
Yeah,
Adam blinked first.
Mm-hmm. Adam was fielding. I think I don't remember the circumstances of losing Zygarde, but that he was running banded Zygarde there, and I mean that thing was gonna just march all over Excessive if he kept it around. But the thing is, Excessive can field enough like fast things.
Mm-hmm.
But he really did need the KO power, and this is kind of a hindsight is 2020 thing. He brought that thing to really just, smack down Celesteela if it showed up. And I don't think Celesteela showed up this week.
And
if I recall correctly.
And sometimes that's
that stab just hit Excessive teams ridiculously hard.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, because Bugs hit Hydreigon and all that jazz.
My hindsight thought is not necessarily that he shouldn't have brought Zygarde, but that maybe like a Dragon Dance set or a Scarf set might have come in more handy for him in the long run.
Well,
and with the brains that
and it is one of those things where hindsight's 50 or it's 2020, and it really Hindsight is
If it's
50-50.
50-20, you've got a big issue with hindsight.
Yeah, no, it's 2020.
Hindsight's
but,
20-50.
Very clear the last 3 seconds.
I was gonna say
Really
hindsight is
it's a
50-50,
big
but
blur.
that's not what I meant. I was mixing
Yeah.
my metaphors there.
Hindsight's very, very
Hindsight
far
is
away.
literally a coin flip.
Hindsight is a coin flip. You either see the line of play you should have taken or you didn't. No,
Do we want to talk about Ballistic and Santoro as well?
Yeah, let's talk about
I
that.
think I think that this one's pretty
Banded Tyrantrum. Banded
Yeah.
Tyrantrum.
Holy cow.
That's all you need to know.
Banded
Yeah.
Tyrantrum did was it 80-90% to a
It
Milotic?
was 90% to a Milotic.
Oh,
It was that.
You just
yeah. I
I
mean,
think
granted,
that I mean that like I think a beast.
yeah, I mean, granted, it was before
When-
Marvel scale, but oh, geez, that was
Still,
absurd.
that's still a Milotic.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like melodics are not frail. Melodics are beefy.
Yeah,
it
I mean,
is
that
very
was
much a
Even
bulky
before Marvel
water.
scale gets activated, like
Yeah.
ugh. I mean, Bandit Tyrantrum saw usage on like Oris OU because
there's-
it broke stall.
There's a reason why melodic is on my short list for next season.
yeah, it's Stolly.
Please no.
Oh,
Please, no.
I'm just putting my thunders around for next season for all future Melodics.
My goal, I'm gonna level with you all. My goal next season is to have every single battle go to an hour.
Specs Shaman is coming for your ass.
I welcome the
Seed
change.
Sorry,
flares. Sorry.
I'm
Oh,
just
no.
saying, next season I'm gonna
Yeah.
go for because I have to beat 2 battles that have gone to an hour. Adam has that record. I need to beat that, so I'm gonna just go for broke and get
Me and
every
you
single
can just
battle.
take the long turn. We can go for the long run. Just each of us take like a whole minute for each turn. We're gonna hit that. We're gonna go for
Yeah.
3.
So,
Oh man,
so
we're monsters.
another thing about the Santoro versus Ballistic game was it was just another example of Ballistic inherited an incredible team and is playing it just stupid well.
He's
Yeah,
playing it
Ballistic
to
definitely
optimal
came because he had a
capacity.
rough early season. Didn't
Dude,
he?
this
Didn't
team was
He
0-3.
inherited a team that had a rough early season.
He inherited
Yeah.
an
He inherited an
0-4 team.
0-4 team and has lost once, and he didn't even play it.
Yeah,
given.
Yeah, I mean, basically, he's won 9 games in a row, right? Other than I know that he
Pretty-
lost one, but it was a forfeit. But
yeah. Effectively,
He's
every game
played?
he's played, he's won.
it's just insane.
That team's just ridiculous, honestly.
He has
Everything about it is.
He has the top spot in the Kanto division, which was far and away one of the crazier divisions when he came in. Santoro
Yeah.
was still undefeated.
Yeah,
This was when Santoro and
Then Sam and I
what?
tag teamed him.
yeah.
Yeah. I was just saying. Then,
Santoro's on a slide.
yeah,
I
it's
know. He's had a rough few weeks.
Yeah, he's had. I know that there was a couple weeks in a row where he just had bad
He got hacked.
hacks.
yeah.
And-
I
I
feel
think
like
what Draco's especially didn't the Draco's hacks him all the way.
Yep.
Every single turn, essentially, yeah.
Yeah, the Dracos and I would say he had some bad luck against Michael as well, but it was kind of more the thing. I think
Yeah.
he used body slam 8 turns in a row, just needing the para to make it work, and he didn't get it one of those times, which
Yeah.
is a 9-8% chance, I think,
Yeah, it's
a priori.
it's
But
ridiculous.
another thing is,
For the Sun Conference, both Ballistic and Excessive are guaranteed playoffs, right? Those two and Sam,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I'm not
Yes.
guaranteed yet.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
No, it's gonna come
'cause-
down to last week. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Michael.
there's only 2 guaranteed in Sun, right?
It really depends. Because I'm thinking that I'm really close to being guaranteed here. It really depends on how my match with Pac goes.
Yeah.
The situation with Pac is that I think it's going to end up being a forfeit, unfortunately. I just haven't heard from him in a while.
Yeah.
Pac, if you're listening,
Please come back.
we're going to put you on the back of milk cartons.
Take my
next.
hand.
Yeah.
Missing admin. Anyways, so I don't know what that game's going to come down to. I'm a little bit scared of it. I don't want to talk too much about what I'm bringing just because I don't know if it's going to get made up after this gets posted.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we
Definitely.
can skip that.
Yeah.
The case
well,
of the missing administrator.
Do we want to discuss?
Let's do Jodo.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, we've already talked about my game. Cossack can talk about
Yeah.
Michael.
Mike just
Zerkatry.
Yeah.
Zerk.
Yeah. That Z
He didn't bring
hypnosis, man.
Chansey.
He destiny
didn't bring Chansey.
he destiny bonded my Mega Sableye with Gengar.
Okay, that was a cool play.
that was
That was a good play.
that that
was
was
a cool
I think
step.
looking back on it, that was probably the biggest deciding factor because that Mega
Yeah.
Sableye would have been so helpful later on. Oh no, that was just the worst. Yeah, I didn't bring Chansey and I paid for it dearly. That Xurkitree just ran through half my team, and then he got Rain Up with Mega Pert and just ran through the rest of my team. And that's about all she wrote with that one. It was very, very simple. It was,
So, Cossack, how are your playoff chances looking?
my playoff chances are looking bad. They're looking poor right now. I would need every single team in the league to
Just
quit
to drop
right
out.
now. Just everyone just needs to quit right now if I want to
Hashtag
make
save
playoffs.
Cossack.
Cossack still has a path to
Hashtag
the championship.
I'll put it this way: I am
Sacrilege, really.
already planning for next season because I know I'm not making playoffs. I started planning for next season like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like the only because like what was I was only
haven't
shooting
planned
for the
yet.
revenge
Only I know
tour,
that
and that was
nothing's
it.
me.
And don't get
All
me
I know is I'm
wrong.
getting
Rip the revenge tour.
Don't get me
R.I.P.
wrong.
Revenge Tour.
Don't get me wrong. Next season there will be a reckoning. That's the plan. But I also
Is
have
there a revenge
one
tour on
more
hiatus right
game,
now,
and I
though?
fully intend to win this one more game.
Oh,
Yes.
go for it.
That
I can't wait to
so-
hear like next season.
That's
if
actually
Cossack has a rough
that game's
start,
actually a
Revenge Tour's on
really
hiatus.
big game.
It is.
That
Yeah.
game against Meta is actually kind of relatively big.
Yep.
Yeah, dude.
Which is why
Rochester's
I'm-
counting
So
on
yeah,
you.
what are so basically it's Meta and
It's Meta and
Andrew could be the playoff
Andrew.
spots, right?
Yes. If Andrew wins, he's in. But if he loses and Meta wins, I believe Meta gets
So
this. I'm
does
not
my
sure.
battle against Andrew really matter for
So
playoff chances?
Meta-
It's
Yes.
very close, and it's
Yes.
very much
Meta needs, yeah.
and a lot of it is very contingent on whether
Andrew
or
needs
not
to
I
lose
lose.
both games.
Mhm.
Andrew
And-
needs to lose both games to lose his playoff spot.
Yeah. And Meta needs to
If he wins one game, it's fine.
Yeah. So I
If
mean,
he wins one game, it's in. But like
Yeah.
other than that,
So
the only scenario the Meta
depending-
makes it is if Andrew loses both.
So depending on what happens tonight and next week, I could have possibly the biggest some of the biggest impact on who makes it to playoffs. I get to play Kingmaker.
Yes.
Well, I guess now that we've kind of gotten to Meta, let's go ahead and hop into the Moon Conference real quick. There's not a lot going on. We mentioned Clutch and Nadia, and then myself and Andrew. But let's talk about, I think Meta's the most interesting part of the Moon Conference right now because he is on a path to playoffs. It's going to be a rough one for him.
Was on bad playoffs. No, he's kind of out. He's kind of on the out.
He's on the outside
he needs to
track
fall
for
his
sure.
way.
Well, Andrew needs to beat me, and he also needs to beat Andrew because that's why the whole thing right now is Meta definitely has a chance. Nothing of his own accord. Really, the only thing he can do is
Meta
He
has
needs
a-
to win his. He wins his game. That's all he can do.
that's all he can do for
That's
sure.
and that's the thing. Meta is very much on the outside, but it's there. The chance is there, but it's
chance is there.
contingent on a lot of
Because
different
Andrew
factors.
definitely has. Andrew's games are certainly not easy games.
No, not at all.
I think Clutch and I talked about this yesterday. I think that Andrew, like, if you had to step back, even though he's playing two difficult opponents, I'd say he's good to get at least one of these next two.
One thing with Andrew's team now, though, is it's so much better rounded than it was when I matched him earlier. When I fought him
for
the
sure.
first time, Fire AMZ could literally take on anything on his team, and he couldn't do a thing about it.
So
Yeah, I fought him the first time I
Same thing
fought
with
him.
Clutch and Andrew both like, how do we beat Victini?
Yeah.
Because
So-
especially with Andrew the first time, I think his team now is looking much better around. He's got a really good chance of beating me because his Gudra and a couple other his Mega Manectric, I'm not bringing Scarf Creek this time, has a good
Mhm.
run. So it's gonna be a really good match. I'm really looking forward to it.
All right.
Yo.
I love that you said Gudra's a really big threat, but you're not bringing Primarina.
I know.
You continue to say
really,
Gudra is such a
I'm
big
hedging
threat,
my
and then
bets
you're
here.
not bringing Primarina.
Okay, I
Yeah.
prepped today, but I after I made the team, I was like, you know what? What do we do against Outrage? She's like, I guess we'll find out when the match happens.
All right. So
So-
what do we have left?
I want to talk
for
about.
this?
I want to talk about real quick. We started to talk about Meta,
Mhm.
but part of the reason he's in the predicament that he is in right now is because of the game that he played this week versus Philadelphia.
Oh,
Right.
that was a very good game.
Oh, it was fantastic. And let me just say, like,
I think it.
I want to throw this in real
Go ahead.
quick because we didn't get to talk about this last week. Philadelphia is on a tear.
Yeah.
They're out of the playoffs, but they just
Yeah,
swept
Whitehawk's
their-
doing great.
Yeah, shout out Whitehawk. He's
Definitely,
doing well. I mean,
he had a really rough team and rough
He had
score
a
coming.
he had a
He's
rough
made-
record
Yeah,
to make up for
It's-
Was
going
he
in.
0-5 or 0-6?
chicken salad out of
0-6.
chicken something or whatever.
0-6. So
saying.
he's basically 5-3 right now. He's doing really good.
Oh yeah, I mean the dude has
And
played.
the one he lost to me was due to a free. I'm not sure if that was the whole reason he lost, but it definitely didn't help him. He's had some bad
yeah.
hacks
It
when he
hurt.
lost, but he has had some really good wins.
Yeah, really good wins. And I mean the fact that he beat Neek, and like that's a short list of people who did that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
There's a very short list of people who did that.
yep, there's 3 of them.
There's a
And
whole
he's-
3 of them.
Yep, and so it's him, Storm, and who else beat Neek? There's one more.
Was it Redstone? Or sorry, Meta?
I don't know.
Maybe.
Whatever the case. Yeah, Philadelphia has been making really excellent use of, like, they've put toxic spikes to great use.
T-Spikes won him that game,
Yeah.
I think.
I kind of agree. It's one of 2 games in a row now,
Galesburg
too.
has lost to the Toros, to the Roggenrollas, and to the
That's
Brady
it.
Aries.
So that's the thing is, yeah, Andrew, like, you know, he doesn't have the best record in the league, but dude, they've
He's had some big wins.
It's some
yeah,
really
they've had
solid
some big wins.
They're a potential playoff team.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I would love to see Andrew versus
For sure. I'd love to see
Galesburg in the first
all
round. That'd be
Hoenn
so good.
playoffs.
Oh, that'd be a great game.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, man,
That'd be
that-
definitely
that-
one worth watching.
Oh, geez, that would be mean. I mean, I'd have to play Omega for round 3.
Ooh.
And now I'm out of school, I'm gonna prep so hard for that one.
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that game was good. Shout out Whitehawk, who's just tearing it up and who's coming back for
and
next
Whitehawk,
season.
well done, man.
And
I think I think it's one of those things that really just affirms that T-Spikes are one of the best hazards in the format.
For sure.
Oh,
they're
yeah.
good. Yeah, because you know if you can bring them against a team that doesn't have a solid psychic switch in, or sorry, solid poison switch in.
Poison type.
Yeah.
A solid grounded poison type.
Mhm.
And it just they can't they don't have a defogger that can handle it. Something is getting poisoned more than likely.
Yep.
And poison is good chip. I mean, 12
yeah.
12% every turn.
Hmm.
That's yeah.
Unless, and if you get both layers up, it's just free toxic.
Yeah, and free toxic is the best kind of toxic. Trust me, I
Uh-huh.
know. I'm a stall player.
Fair enough.
Toxic
So-
is like one of the biggest tools in the stall arsenal because of its like
Mhm.
ever increasing chip damage, and so that's why like toxic spikes are fantastic.
Oh, for sure.
They're
Now-
great against stall too.
Yeah, they are. They
Mhm.
actually are really good against stall. Well, that's this weird thing where stall likes giving toxic, does not like receiving toxic much.
Oh yeah, and the thing is, I mean, granted, it's so long as like you know, Chansey has natural cure, so I mean, getting it toxic every time it comes in is really nice. And I think the caveat is it's really good against stall, so long as the stall isn't packing a Moongus, which is just going to come in and stop those.
Or
up.
Toxapex.
Toxapex too, yeah, of course.
So,
All right, I'm heading out now. I'm gonna go battle Rochester.
All right,
now.
good luck,
if
my
you're still
guy.
here,
yeah,
thank you. If you're still here, I'll come back and announce the results. If not,
we'll see.
that's another time.
Probably not. We're probably going to wrap this up quickly.
Okay.
Okay, so we got one last game to talk about: Chicago
Yes.
versus Galesburg. Am I the? I think I'm the only one who's seen that one.
Yeah, I haven't had time to watch it.
Either.
Yeah. So, I think that, the outcome for this one is, you know, you guys don't mind me spoiling it for you. I imagine
Oh,
we're
go
gonna
for it.
gonna have to
No,
talk
Yeah,
about
you're
it.
going to have to talk about it.
Yeah, Galesburg pulled this one off. I think
That was a
there.
eh.
It's not like a surprise upset necessarily, but like that means that they are tied for the season. Because yeah, once again, Chicago is one of the teams that has beaten Galesburg,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't really know what more to say about the match. It's like I think Alolan Ninetales showed up. Storm went for the turn 1 Z Aurora Veil,
Interesting.
which I thought was kind of strange. There were
What
a
does
couple-
Zero do?
I think it raises your speed by 1.
I feel like that might have been a misclick. You can never tell though.
Yeah, that sounded like a misclick to me because she has run ICMZ on
Ninetales before.
Ninetales quite a bit, but it seemed I was kind of surprised by the move, and it didn't really make sense. I thought it might have been like a misclick, like you know, clicked Z, and ended up going for it on a. I think she went for it as Neek switched out his Suicune into Pillow Swine. There were a couple plays that I thought were a little bit off. She kind of let Lando go for nothing, which was really unfortunate because it did work. Because she had it packing knockoff to take out things like, I mean, knockoff against Neek's team, by the way, is really, really solid. And there are a couple spots where I thought she could have pulled it off, but there were some kind of, strange decisions, I thought, that kind of put her in a tough spot. But she, I mean, she played well.
She gave it a good fight, probably.
Yeah,
I assume. Yeah. We've come to expect that from her, especially now that she's got a team this season that she's far more comfortable with than last season.
And again, this came up last week as well. I think she'll have continued iterations of just better and better teams.
Yes,
for her.
Definitely. I would say she's definitely one to watch next season. Just because of the fact that she's got 2 seasons under her belt now, she's got a more firm grasp on her style and how that relates to Draft League.
Yeah.
For sure.
So that about covers it, I think, for divisional rematches. And I think we mentioned who clinched the playoff slots.
Yep.
Did we?
I think.
Well, let's mention it again real quick.
Omega's done it.
Yep.
Neek had it last week, and Neek was the only one who had it last week. We now have who else?
Me.
We had the Kanto division, and of course we had Clutch. Yeah. So in Kanto we had Excessive and
Ballistic.
Clinched. And Clutch clinched not because of a win yet, but because
of a loss.
Yeah, LAC. The Charger Bugs losing meant that they couldn't tie you and win the tiebreaker.
Yes.
So, and that was the only way that you were not getting a playoff spot.
Yeah.
And
so you would.
So here we are. We find ourselves with playoff slots swiftly dwindling here. Available slots are going away fast.
Yeah. Just down to 2, one in each conference.
Exactly. And so that means that this week is vitally important. Despite it being the last week of the season, it is certainly not a throwaway week. Slots will be won and lost this week.
Absolutely.
And we'll tell you all about it.
Is still up for grabs as well.
Dude, if I make it, I have to play one of, I mean, chances are it's going to be one of Santoro,
hopefully
the Moon Conference is so jacked.
Yeah.
Hopefully next week we'll be able to give you the full picture for playoffs. Hopefully.
Sure.
Can't guarantee it because of scheduling, everyone's got their own separate schedules. We've already talked about there's been some kind of like fiddliness with schedules and possible remakes of like matches that are going to have to, maybe be pushed back. And there's a lot of things that are still kind of in the works and very up in the air. So hopefully we'll be able to give you that complete picture next week. Can't guarantee that that'll be the case, but we'll give you as complete a picture as we can after next week because regular season's done. This is like after this week. So after that, and then we'll start doing playoff coverage and we'll go from there. So now that we've covered all of that, we've covered our first 2 topics, and we've caught ourselves back up to date on most of what we were trying to get caught up on. The one last thing we need to get caught up on is our Mon of the Week, and our Mon of the Week this week is Feraligatr. And the 3 of us talked about Feraligatr the last time, so we've got our thoughts very well organized on this topic.
The talking points are down.
Yes. So as we established when we were talking about this in the Lost episode, Feraligatr is by far the best water Pokemon in the meta, and therefore you should never use Starmie over Feraligatr. Feraligatr is objectively better than Starmie.
Yep, both tier 2 in this league, you draft Feraligatr first every time. Number 1 overall.
Obviously. Yeah. I wouldn't go anywhere else. What's that Manaphy thing? Nah, Gators. Gators better.
Keldeo, you don't need Keldeo. You need Gator.
You got Gator.
No, but Feraligatr is a very fierce breaker.
It's a very potent breaker.
Yes.
With access to both boosting moves and Dragon Dance, two boosting moves in Dragon Dance and Swords Dance, and the move pool to back up Sheer Force.
Yes.
Absolutely. It's absolutely a dangerous mon to switch into.
Very dangerous. And Like, it's an asset to pretty much anything that needs a decent water monotyped like wall breaker, because and that I think that monotype actually does give it a bit of an edge in that regard, because a lot of wall breakers are dual type, so a lot of not all, but a lot of wall breakers also have quads, and
Yeah.
this doesn't have quads because it's water. So
And I think one of the real bonuses with Gator is that it has the bulk to take the hit while
Yeah.
it sets up.
well, we were talking about bulky mons that can deal hits back. Feraligatr kind of almost embodies that in a sense. It can take a hit or two, and it can dish out the damage in return.
It'll take a turn to set up. It'll take a Dragon Dance here, and it'll start just clicking buttons on you, and you're in a hole.
Well, and it's something you don't want to switch into, even when it's unboosted, because it hits hard. And
I mean, Sheer Force boosted liquidation is just ridiculous in its own right.
Yeah, like it's got good neutral coverage with Crunch, very good neutral coverage with Crunch.
Crunch, Rock Slide,
Mm-hmm.
Ice Punch for dragons.
Yep. It
can break. It can break for itself, and it breaks for everything else around it. It's just gonna leave gaps in that team comp.
Well, we talked about balance when a lot of what you're trying to do with your breakers on balance is punch holes, and
Gator does that
very much so. And I really like Feraligatr. I've mentioned a few mons that are on my short list for next season. Feraligatr's definitely up there because I'm looking for bulky mons that can hit. Feraligatr's a bulky mon that can hit.
I mean, it has 100 base defense.
Yeah, that's pretty decent in draft league.
It's no slouch.
Yeah,
no slouch.
Well, and with Dragon Dance, you can definitely get that speed up too.
But also you can run SD plus Aqua Jet. Even though Aqua Jet's not Sheer Force boosted, at +2, you're gonna hit pretty hard.
Exactly. Well, and it gets Ice Punch too, so you've got that dragon coverage there too, and you've got just a lot of stuff that gets boosted by that Sheer Force.
Exactly.
It's devastating.
It's just a beast. I mean, it's designed cool. It's shiny. It's pretty neat.
It's got Body Slam, which is Sheer Force boosted. It's got a secondary effect,
which is it's better than Return, and you just need a neutral coverage move.
Yep.
I think it hits 108. I know this because Tauros is the same.
Yeah, after the Sheer Force. Yeah, I think so.
It's 80 times 1.5. It's 108 or something. It's something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Use Body Slam as main stab, so it runs.
And it also gets
Body Slam over
It gets
Return.
some interesting utility as well, because it also gets Roar, and it also gets Dragon Tail.
Yep.
So in a pinch, you can
phaser.
use it. Yeah, you can use it as a phaser. It's certainly a viable option. It's not like you can't run phaser with this mon. It's got the bulk to do it.
It can still be a bulkier water type. I think it gets. Does it get Refresh? If my mind's correct.
It does not. No.
No, it's as a Blastoise. It gets Refresh.
Yeah.
Got my waters mixed up.
And it's possible to, because of D-Dance and Swords Dance, it is possible to run a kind of a pseudo Crocoon set with it as well. Because it's got, it would be very edge case. You'd have to run it against the right team, but it's something you could run because it gets Sleep Talk, gets Rest. Pretty much everything does, but it's got the boosting move that's important. Also,
very much important.
Also, it gets It also gets Iron Tail, so it's got that fairy anti-fairy coverage too.
Yeah, I think the whole thing with Gator is I think your opponent had. I think its edge over the Nidos is the fact that it can boost.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yes.
The Nidos have the move pool, but Gator can boost in a +1/+2 Sheer Force Life Orb boosted liquidation.
Yeah.
Nothing wants to switch into. It doesn't matter if you resist it or if you're just taking a neutral hit. You don't want to take it.
No, you definitely don't. And it's got other moves that benefit from Sheer Force that you can expect it to possibly bring. Iron Tail is a bit of a risk due to its accuracy, but it's not enough of a risk. It's 75% accuracy.
I don't think it gets the sheer force boost. If I don't believe.
It has 30% chance to lower the target's defense by 1 stage.
Oh, geez, that's sheer force boosted right there.
And its power, its
that's
base
ridiculous.
power, non-sheer force boosted base power is 100. Iron Tail hits like a freight train.
Okay, that's a dead fairy type right there.
Yeah, it's got the coverage. Like, and I mean, you got superpower.
Yeah, that's not sheer force boosted.
It isn't, but it's base 120. So I mean,
but you're still hitting steel types ridiculously hard, and it gets earthquake.
If you want a fighting type move that gets sheer force boosted, doesn't
power up punch. No, power punch.
No, I was thinking brick.
No, power
break.
punch
I was
doesn't
thinking brick break because it's base power 75.
No, but the screens is not the secondary effect.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Sheer force is a super weird ability.
It is a super weird ability. You're right. Okay, so I mean, you'd still probably, if you're running fighting coverage, superpower is fine. I mean, you're still talking.
Superpower is good.
You're talking what, base 105 attack with superpower? I'm fine with that.
I'm perfectly fine with that. If it gets to +2, someone sends in a Ferrothorn, that thing is falling over.
Yeah, it's not gonna last very long. Get one, maybe
Ferrothorn,
2 Dragon Dances, and Ferrothorn can't switch in on this thing if it's got superpower.
I mean,
oof.
It doesn't make a good Z. It does not make a good Z user just because it doesn't get the sheer force boost of Z moves.
Right.
But I think it's just such a great Pokemon.
And it can be good support for your Z Captain if you're running Z Captain. Or whatever your whatever your crystal user is.
Yeah, it just breaks. It does one thing and it doesn't. Its main thing. It does extremely well.
Well, and that's what we were talking about with tier 2s, and tier 2s very frequently offer one specific role that they do exceptionally well, and Feraligatr's role is breaking walls.
Yeah, I think the thing with a lot of tier 2s is you end up seeing a lot of things that get locked into a specific set, or they need to run this set to acquire speed control and beat their counters. I think Gator's big thing with that is that it will end up running. It'll run up a setup move plus 3 attacks, or it'll run choice band. You're not going to see any other sets beyond that, really.
No.
So what you're trying to guess with Gator is its coverage.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to with Gator, is the coverage, not what item it's holding up, but what coverage it's got.
Because it's going to hold a life orb. It's sheer force plus life orb or band, and once you figure out if it's banned or not, you know what's going on.
Yeah, and it's pretty easy to scout that. It's basically, if it hits you and loses health, it's banned. If it hits you and doesn't lose health, or if it hits you and loses health, it's life orb. If it hits you and doesn't lose health, it's banded.
Oh, you wouldn't see the life orb off sheer force because that's again one of the weird freaking things about sheer force.
You're right.
Because you don't take life orb recoil.
That's weird. Oh my gosh.
Sheer force is such a dumb ability. It's so complicated.
It really is.
There's so many things
I guess if it uses more than
combat,
one, I mean, if it uses more than one move, then
if you see if it sets up a Dragon Dance, it's probably not choice band.
Well, yeah, that's what it comes down to. If it sets up at all, it's not choice banded.
If it sets up, it's not choice band.
Also, Aqua Jet still hits pretty hard, even though it's not sheer force boosted.
Oh, it's stab priority. It's gonna hit pretty hard after Swords Dance or 2.
Yeah. Ooh. Not necessarily tough to plan for, but definitely still something that you're gonna have to respect.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at Gator and you go, "Where's my Gator put in? How do I pressure Gator enough so it can't get set up on me?"
Right, because if it gets set up, you're in deep trouble.
Very big trouble.
Because
Gator because you're losing something. You gotta find your sack.
Yeah,
or sex.
It's got a lot of. Well, again, it comes down to the fact that it's got a lot of coverage. It doesn't have a grass move or an electric move, so it does not have. It doesn't really have coverage against water. So if you need to switch in on it, probably a bulky water would be a good bet. So melodic.
Like a nice Suicune, melodic, something like that.
We already established you don't want to switch you don't want to switch Tapu Fini into this thing because Iron Tail.
He's the neutral hit, but still gonna do a ton.
Well, it's a neutral hit, but it's a neutral hit that's 100 power sheer force boosted. So
boosted.
Ugh.
Coming from a plus whatever Gator.
Yeah, but like Suicune, like a Crocoon set does very well against this.
Yeah, I mean, you need to get damage off on it. You need to chip it down. You gotta get hazards up. You gotta get Toxic's never a bad bring against Feraligatr.
And if the team in question that has Feraligatr has a Wish Passer, you need to also try and get rid of that Wish Passer because I would Wish Pass to Gator all day long. Just pass all those wishes to Gator. Like I would send Gator all my energy.
Gator can just run through teams with good support.
Yep. Now that being said, if you've got a faster threat that can hit hard enough with a super effective or a stab move, Mega Manectric gives Feraligatr problems.
It is relatively slow for a Dragon Dancer.
Yeah.
77 is not great.
78.
It is 78. My bad. It is relative. It is open to being revenged even at +1.
Yes.
It's not like we're talking like if it gets to +1, it's over. It's certainly not over. Being a water type does have common weaknesses in electric and grass.
Mm-hmm.
So getting it to +1 and having a Scarfer that's over 80, the whole goal with Gator is just not to get to +2.
Yeah. Once you get to +2, it's still potentially doable, but you're gonna lose something in the process.
I mean, because you have something to revenge Gator. You can have some. Gator is open to revenge killing, which is kind of its big drawback.
Right, and it's also another good thing you want to do to Gator if you get the chance is you definitely want to hit it with paralysis or burn
or toxic. It's pretty open to status. It does not like it.
It does not like status, and it doesn't really have a good way to mitigate that status unless you've got a cleric on your team, which not every team is going to have a cleric, and in fact, a lot of teams don't. Or if they do, they don't have the complete package. What I call a complete package cleric is something with Wish, something that has Wish, can self-heal, and has Heal Bell. If it has those three things, then it's what I call a full package cleric. Chansey's a good example of a full package cleric. Blissey is a full
Wish
package
plus
cleric.
soft boiled.
Wish, soft boil, and Heal Bell. It gets the full package. You can't like Clefable doesn't get the full package if it's got Unaware. If it has Magic Guard, it can.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Gator needs support, but I think it's something that likes to support. It's just a Pokemon that can sit there and it'll do things for you. It likes to have proper support, but if he doesn't, it'll still get a couple kills here and there just because it's just that strong.
Of how powerful it is. And usually you're using it to switch into something that doesn't like it, so they're gonna have to switch something else in on it. And if you can figure out what they've got as switch-ins, you've probably got a move that at least hits them neutrally. So they're gonna suffer. They're gonna suffer some damage, some serious damage, regardless what they put in on this thing.
Oh yeah, I mean it's gonna do 50% probably to summon a +1 or +2.
Yeah, and because Crunch hits a large portion of the metagame neutrally.
Crunch plus Liquidation plus Ice Punch is pretty much just all the coverage you could ever ask for.
Right.
It's probably hitting everything neutrally on most rosters.
Yeah, and anything. The thing is, that's the nice thing about it is with that set, there's maybe one or two things that can switch in on it and not get hit neutrally, but what those things are, so you can have Mons on your team.
You can make good doubles. You can around those.
Yes, exactly, and you can use it as bait too.
Yep.
Because it just makes good bait.
Yeah.
Because because what you want for bait, you want something that's a big threat.
Gator's a fantastic lure, I think.
Yeah.
Just because of its move pool and options, it can lure a lot of things to their deaths.
Yes. A good example is if they have Coco, you can use it to lure Coco on the switch in and hit it with Iron Tail. And while it's going to hit neutrally, because I believe Electric resists Steel.
Yes. But yeah,
but
that's
it's
right.
Coco.
That's correct.
Coco doesn't like getting hit heavily. Coco's not a
I mean,
wall.
yeah. You're still
So-
getting. You can also hit it with Earthquake, which is just a
Oh,
good
right,
coverage.
exactly.
Good to have.
Yep.
I think another thing Gator's victim of is constant 4 move slot syndrome.
Yes.
Because you want a setup move, and you want Aqua Jet, and then you want Liquidation,
and
then you want
you're
Ice Punch, and then you want Crunch, and then you want Superpower
right.
and
And
Earthquake.
then you want Earthquake, and and you just
You run out of move slots.
and that
Gator's great, but you run up a lot of headaches.
Yeah. So
Trying to
what
work with it.
we're basically putting down here is that it's it's a good breaker. If you're looking for a solid breaker that will fit in on your team and doesn't like stack up a bunch of weaknesses, Gator is a good option for you because it's water type, so its weaknesses are they're common, but they're not quads and they can be planned for.
And you can EV your Gator accordingly
yeah.
to hit both hard and take the hit you need it to.
Right. And that's what's important with wall breakers. So I think that about sums up Feraligatr, and that's actually going to wrap up the podcast for this week. And any noise you hear in the background, by the way, is my roommates. So we're going to wrap it up, and we'll see you next week, hopefully with a complete picture of the playoffs. We'll do the best we can. And then after that, we'll keep doing playoff coverage is the plan. We'll keep going with this series. I think next week for Team Archetypes, I think we'll go the opposite direction of Hyper Offense, which is stall, something I know quite a bit about. And we'll go from there. So until next week, this is Cossack 11, and just clutch now because the other two guys have left to do their battles for this past week, and we'll give you the results of those also next week. Until then, enjoy your drafts, enjoy your battles, win or lose. It's all about how much fun you're having, and we'll see you next time. Peace.